Hamilton walked into Ferrari expecting a new chapter. Not a new crisis, yet that is exactly what this season turned into. And now, out of nowhere, Nico Rosberg has decided to speak up in a way that has shaken the entire Formula One world. What makes this moment so explosive is not just what Rosberg said, but who he is. He is the only driver of Hamilton's generation who truly matched him wheel to wheel, who knows his mind under pressure, and who understands exactly what happens when Hamilton is pushed to a breaking point. So when Rosberg steps out and delivers a message that cuts through every rumor, every headline, and every whisper about Hamilton's future, fans pay attention. Honestly, you and I both know, this season hasn't looked anything like what Hamilton imagined when he signed that red contract. The constant fight with the SF25, the shock qualifying exits, the lack of podiums, and the sense that Ferrari still doesn't quite understand what he needs have all created a storm he probably didn't see coming. Add the retirement speculation that keeps growing louder, and suddenly the entire narrative around him feels unstable. And that is exactly the moment Rosberg chose to drop a bombshell. Instead of telling Hamilton to walk away, to protect his legacy, or to avoid further embarrassment, Rosberg said the opposite. He told him that now is precisely the wrong time to even think about giving up. He made it clear that leaving Ferrari after just one brutal season would do far more damage to Hamilton's story than any bad result. That is a powerful statement because it reframes the whole situation. Rosberg is not pretending Hamilton's season has been good. He is saying the struggle is the reason he cannot quit. Before I go deeper, let me ask you something directly. Do you think Rosberg is right to step in and call Hamilton out like this? Or do you feel he is overstepping? Tell me in the comments because this moment is dividing the fan base. And if you enjoy getting these detailed breakdowns right when big news hits, make sure you subscribe and help us reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers. It really helps the channel grow, and it ensures you never miss these kinds of updates. The wild part is that Rosberg claims Hamilton is actually closer to a breakthrough than anyone realizes. According to him, the headlines are exaggerating the doom, and the Ferrari project still has a future worth fighting for. This sets the tone for everything that follows because Rosberg isn't just making commentary, he is challenging Hamilton directly. He is pushing him to stay, to fight, and to not let this chapter end as a failure. And with all of that in mind, we need to unpack the brutally honest truths Rosberg laid out about Hamilton's season. The ones most analysts are too cautious to say out loud. That takes us right into the next part of this story, where the real pressure begins to surface. When Rosberg began breaking down Hamilton's season, he didn't sugarcoat a single thing. He said outright that Hamilton's first year in red has been brutal, and honestly, anyone watching the races could see it too. The qualifying struggles, the missed opportunities, the car that never seemed to respond the way Hamilton wanted, all of it painted a picture that felt surreal for a driver who once dominated the sport with what looked like effortless precision. Rosberg pointed out that the outside world only sees numbers, not context. They see a 7-time world champion, fighting to reach Q2, being out-qualified by his teammate, and occasionally losing control of a car that simply refuses to behave. That image becomes its own story, and it has shaped the narrative in a way that Hamilton has never had to deal with before. What made Rosberg's comments sting just a bit more is that they weren't meant to insult Hamilton. They were meant to diagnose the situation. He described the season as a scratch on Hamilton's legacy, something small yet visible, the kind of mark that grows more noticeable with each disappointing weekend. And when you look at the year as a whole, that description feels brutally accurate. The frustration inside Ferrari, the unpredictability of the SF25, and the constant work just to stay competitive have turned what was supposed to be a heroic chapter into a year defined by survival. But the moment that truly shocked the paddock was Rosberg addressing the retirement rumors head-on. He warned that stepping away now, or even leaving, Ferrari after a single season would be catastrophic for Hamilton's legacy. In his eyes, it would look like quitting before the real story even had a chance to begin. This is where Rosberg's message shifts from criticism to challenge. He believes Hamilton still has the ability, still has the hunger, but is caught in a moment where frustration is clouding everything. And that point becomes even stronger when you consider how many insiders have echoed similar concerns this year. Before we move on, let me ask you something directly. Out of everything Hamilton has gone through this season, which struggle surprised you the most? The qualifying pace, the race consistency, or the difficulty adapting to the Ferrari? Let me know in the comments, because everyone seems to have a different moment where they felt things just weren't right. And if you're still watching and enjoying this deep dive coverage, make sure you subscribe and help us reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers. It really supports the channel and keeps this kind of analysis coming. Rosberg's next point is where the entire story takes a turn, because he believes the solution isn't in running away from Ferrari, but in waiting for something bigger. He points directly to 2026 as the true reset button, the moment that could change everything for Hamilton. And that takes us straight into the next chapter, where Rosberg's optimism about the future becomes the most surprising part of all. Rosberg's confidence in 2026 is not blind optimism. It comes from understanding exactly how radical the new regulations will be, and how much they can reshape the competitive order. He argued that Hamilton's struggles this season are not about fading talent, but about a fundamental mismatch between his driving style and the current Ferrari package. In his eyes, the SF25 has been unpredictable, unstable, and unwilling to deliver the precision Hamilton relies on, especially over a single lap. But the next era of cars, with redesigned aerodynamics, new power unit rules, and a fresh engineering philosophy, could finally give Hamilton the machinery that responds to him instead of fighting against him. Rosberg called this the clean slate Hamilton has been waiting for, a chance to wipe away everything that went wrong and start again with a car built under a completely different set of limitations. What makes this argument so compelling is how consistent it is with the flashes of speed Hamilton has shown even in the middle of this chaos. During the races, whenever the car allowed him even a little stability, he found ways to deliver the kind of racecraft that made him a 7-time champion. Whether it was slicing through traffic or defending against quicker cars, those moments reminded everyone that the instincts are still there. Rosberg connected those moments to the bigger picture. If Hamilton can produce that level of driving in a car that is working against him, imagine what he could do with a car that finally gives him the feedback he needs. It is a powerful idea, and it is exactly why Rosberg insists that staying the course could set up one of the biggest redemption stories the sport has seen in years. Martin Brundle added even more weight to this prediction by saying that once Hamilton gets a new machine under him, everything from his motivation to his race day confidence will shift. According to Brundle, Hamilton's passion hasn't disappeared. It has simply been buried beneath the frustration of a car that refuses to cooperate. And hearing two of the most respected voices in the sport, both with deep knowledge of Hamilton's mindset, make the same case gives the entire conversation a sense of momentum. This isn't just pundit noise. It is a genuine belief that Hamilton is not done, not declining, and not anywhere near the end of his story. Let me ask you something directly because your perspective matters here. Do you think the 2026 regulations really have the potential to reset the playing field? Or do you feel the top teams will stay on top no matter what? Tell me in the comments, because this debate is going to define how fans think about the next era of Formula One. And if you want to stay ahead of all the major news leading up to that new era, make sure you subscribe and help us get to our goal of 2,000 subscribers. Your support keeps these deep breakdowns coming and helps the channel grow. Now that Rosberg has laid out why Hamilton should stay, The next part of the story dives into something far more personal: the emotional toll this season has taken, and how Hamilton's mindset is being reshaped by one of the most difficult years of his career. And that takes us straight into the next chapter. This season hasn't just tested Hamilton behind the wheel. It's tested him mentally and emotionally in ways most of us don't get to see. The hype that surrounded his move to Ferrari, the hopeful dreams of trophies, iconic duels, and a fairy tale chapter that all collided with the harsh reality of unpredictability, grip issues, inconsistent performance. For a driver who's used to excellence and control, wrestling with a car that constantly sabotages that sense of control can be deeply frustrating. Rosberg pointed out that this isn't just about lost races or missed podiums. It's about the toll that uncertainty takes on motivation, confidence, and self-belief. When weekend after weekend becomes a struggle, it chips away at the inner fire, the kind of fire that turns great champions into legends. But here's what makes Rosberg's view different. He doesn't believe that fire has been extinguished, only smothered. He argues that this hardship doesn't mark the end of Hamilton's story. Instead, it can be the soil from which a stronger, more resilient chapter grows. Hamilton's legacy, according to Rosberg, isn't frozen by one bad season. It's still alive, still evolving, still capable of being elevated, especially if he has the patience and fortitude to ride this out. The choice to endure when things are hard, to fight through uncertainty and frustration rather than bail out early, that's the mark of championship mentality. And if anyone understands how deep that mindset runs, it's Rosberg. So here's a question for you. Do you believe Hamilton still has another championship-caliber chapter ahead of him? Despite all the hardship, despite the noise, do you think he can come back stronger than ever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. And if you value seeing this kind of honest, in-depth analysis, help the channel grow by subscribing and joining our community as we track Hamilton's next moves. Every subscriber counts toward our goal of 2,000. At this point, with his legacy at stake and emotions running high, Hamilton stands at a crossroads. Will he treat this season as a painful epilogue or as the prelude to something greater? Rosberg's belief, and countless fans' hopes, is that we haven't even begun to see the real Ferrari-era Hamilton. What's more, staying through hardship doesn't just show resilience. It leaves the door wide open for redemption. With that in mind, the story now turns to what lies ahead and what decision Hamilton might take. In the final chapter, we'll explore the stakes and possible outcomes, whether he walks away or fights for the comeback that could rewrite history. Everything now comes down to the decision only one person can make. Hamilton stands in front of a moment that will define not just the end of his career, but the way the entire world remembers him. Rosberg's message wasn't about pressure or criticism. It was about perspective. He wanted Hamilton to see the bigger picture, the long game, the chance to turn what has been a painful and frustrating season into the foundation of one of the greatest turnarounds Formula One has ever seen. Because if Hamilton walks away now, the Ferrari chapter becomes a story of disappointment, a loose end that overshadows the dream that brought him to Maranello in the first place. But if he stays, if he pushes through the adversity, and if the 2026 regulations give him the car he's been searching for, the arc of his story changes completely. Suddenly, 2025 isn't a failure. It becomes the necessary struggle before redemption. That's why Rosberg's words hit so hard. He's not imagining a miracle. He's imagining what Hamilton has done his entire career: reinvent himself, defy expectations, and rise just when people begin to write him off. That ability is still there. You see it in the racecraft, in the recoveries, in the moments of brilliance that cut through even the worst weekends. When a driver has that kind of instinct, it doesn't disappear. It simply waits for the right moment to re-emerge. And with a new era coming, new rules, new engineering philosophy, new opportunities, the path is there for Hamilton to take back control of his story. Not as the driver who struggled at Ferrari, but as the champion who endured the storm and came back stronger when it mattered most. So now the question becomes simple but powerful. Does Hamilton believe the future Rosberg sees is worth fighting for? Does he still feel the pull of competition, the need to prove something not to critics, but to himself? If Ferrari delivers a car that gives him the chance to compete at the sharp end again, everything changes. Not just for him, but for the entire grid. And honestly, I want to hear your take on this. If you were in Hamilton's position, would you stay and fight for that chance at redemption, or would you walk away from the struggle? Tell me in the comments, because this is one of the biggest questions facing Formula One right now. And if you're enjoying this kind of deep dive, make sure you subscribe and help us reach the 2,000 subscriber mark. Your support genuinely helps the channel continue bringing you these in-depth breakdowns. What comes next for Hamilton could reshape the sport's narrative. If he sees what Rosberg sees, the next chapter could be the most powerful of his career. And if Ferrari finally delivers the car he needs, the rest of the field may once again find out that counting out Lewis Hamilton is a mistake they should never make.